All right, get your tinfoil hats on, people. It's go time. La-di-da. It's going down. Cheers. 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 Let's go. You cannot deny that the Nintendo Switch is a revolutionary piece of gaming hardware. Even in 2020, it continues to sell faster than ever before, despite next generation consoles coming from Sony and Microsoft. The Nintendo Switch is setting records left and right. The Switch ecosystem was built on versatility, outstanding first-party games, and third-party support rarely seen from a Nintendo platform since the 90s. But ever since the Switch was released, there were rumors of a Pro version right around the corner waiting to be released. It's been 3 years now. You know, the console's always been on the weaker side of this generation. It was more in line with 2 generations ago now when comparing hardware specs, which is understandable because I think you can fit like 12 Switches inside of a PS5. Now, back in 2019, the rumors of 2 new Switch versions were very intense, which ended up happening. There were 2 new Switch models that came out that year, but the beefed up version of the primary console wasn't what most people were expecting. Instead, Nintendo just released basically the same model with a more optimized SoC, which improved the battery life, and not insignificantly, might I add. The rumored Switch Mini came out, as you know, as the Switch Lite, and I personally have one, and I love it. It's my go-to for handheld gaming. I really like the sturdiness playing it in handheld mode way more than my original Switch. Now, the rumors of the Switch Pro continued through 2020, as you may know. And I can only imagine that a global pandemic and logistical issues probably moved things around Nintendo's schedule fairly significantly. Even if the plan was to release a Pro model in 2020, the Nintendo Switch sales have just been increasing throughout the year, so they could have decided to push it out anyway just to keep making money on the current hardware. That said, I do not think that Nintendo is going to give a long lead time for their new console between announcement and release. Maybe 2 to 3 months max. You know, it's never been in Nintendo's playbook to give long lead times, especially for their consoles. They like shadow drops. They do not want to slow down sales of their Switch, which is selling wildly right now. So you may or may not have heard that there was a data mine leak that was posted on some forums online claiming that in the source code for the newest Switch update there are cues to new hardware that Nintendo is working on. Now, there's not a whole lot of ways to validate or verify this information, so please take it all with a grain of salt, as I am doing. I want to discuss my predictions because they haven't really changed much with this new information. You know, there is an entire industry of fake Nintendo leaks that just blast out there constantly to try to drum up controversy and attention and all that garbage. But in the data mine leak, there's a few tangible highlights, mainly that the new Switch will have a new OLED display, possibly the same resolution, maybe a little bit higher, a very similar SoC, which is the CPU GPU processor, and possibly the ability to play 4K content from the console. Other than that, there's not a whole lot of hard data. Even those were very vague. So supposedly the new hardware's codenamed Aula, A-U-L-A, and it's been in development for 18 to 24 months, which kind of aligns with where some of the rumors could have spurred from over the last couple of years. Now, the 4K ability is a hypothesis from the data miner, and he did reference that there could be some hardware inside a new dock. This is something that I have been telling people about for a couple months. Specifically, about a month ago, or a little over a month ago, I commented on one of Spawnwave's Newswave videos about my prediction that Nintendo was going to release a hardware boosted dock in the next year. I also predicted that it was going to be $100 to $200, do some fancy stuff. I got shouted down pretty hard saying, "Oh, you need Thunderbolt, the throughput's not high enough. You idiot, what are you thinking?" Whatever. Now I know the USB-C connector is only USB 3 on the Switch, the current Switch. It's not Thunderbolt, which would be required for like full eGPU type of processing power for boosting actual performance of the console. But I think this new dock could serve a dual purpose. Let me explain. I will get into all of my predictions right now. So here are the details of what I think Nintendo is going to do in the next 12 to 14 months, hardware-wise. Number 1, a new Switch model, but I think it's going to be less of an upgrade than most people are envisioning when they think, oh, 4K Switch. I think it's actually going to be the same form factor. I think the tablet is going to be pretty identical. I think the screen may be a little bit bigger. I think the OLED screen is happening. Maybe 1080, maybe stick to 720. We'll see. I'm not sure where they're going to go with that. I think it will have a Thunderbolt connector on that USB-C port. I think it will be totally backwards compatible with the current Switch ecosystem. I think it will be more like a PS4 Pro or an Xbox One X in terms of performance boosting of the current library and have new games optimized for the new hardware. But I think it's going to be a pretty minor bump. In handheld mode, I think it's just going to make things run a little bit better. Current and future titles, they'll just run a little bit better. So with the same form factor, it'll be compatible with the current dock. Everything will function as usual. Number 2, a new hardware accelerated dock. It's not going to be a bunch of empty space like the current dock, which you can't find a new dock anywhere. So you can buy refurbished ones from Nintendo if they're ever in stock. They don't even come with the power connector, and they're the same price as normal docks. So there's a lot of stuff going on with these docks. I think a new dock with hardware acceleration is coming this year. Here's the dual purpose. I think with current Nintendo Switch models, that hardware will be focused on upscaling the current output. It'll take the video signal, it will do some AI upscaling, kind of like the NVIDIA Shield does with video feeds right now. It's very similar architecture. I think that's what the dock will do. It will be able to output at 4K. Whether it's how much upscaling it does, I think will be determined. So that's one purpose. The other purpose is I think the hardware will work seamlessly with the new Nintendo Switch model through a new Thunderbolt connector to provide additional processing power to then output natively at higher resolutions when in docked mode. Think about it. Why do you need all that processing power in handheld mode if you're not going to have a 4K handheld display? Put some of this hardware in the dock and have it work together with the console only when it's in docked mode, so that you don't have to waste the battery power, you don't have to waste the processing power to play these games in handheld mode. I think the new Switch console and the new dock are going to be sold separately. Because the new Switch can work with existing docks, I think they're going to piggyback on that and then sell the new dock as an upgrade for both current Switch owners and new Switch owners of the Pro model. Number 3. This is my long shot because I don't really think it's going to happen, but there's been some faint chatter about Nintendo putting out a set-top only device that plays Switch games, especially after the Switch Lite blew the whole switching part of the Switch name out of the water. Seems like it wouldn't be completely out of the realm of possibility. Now, in that data mine, there is a reference to another piece of hardware codenamed Calcio, which specifically does not have a battery and specifically does not have a cartridge slot, but it's hardware. Here's the thing. I don't think that Nintendo will put out a set-top box without a cartridge slot. If they did, awesome. Maybe this could be it. But it seems like this would kind of be like a PlayStation TV type of device, which I don't see Nintendo doing. But it could be cool if they incorporate all of this new hardware and can output, a 4K signal and have this small Switch style set-top box. I would be a fan of that. So the Calcio hardware device was kind of written off in the data mine because it didn't have a battery or cartridge slot, kind of insinuating that it would be internal only or just for testing, which is possible. The other possibility is that this Calcio device is the dock. It doesn't have a screen, it doesn't have a battery, it doesn't have a cartridge slot, obviously. This would lend to the idea that the dock is actually doing some heavy lifting for once. So yeah, I guess time will tell what Nintendo decides to do. For all I know, they're just going to keep riding out the current model Nintendo Switch and just rake in that money because it's selling so well, and they don't really need to put out a new console. It's just that they're obviously working on something. And so whether it comes out this year, next year, 3 years, 7 years, I mean, we'll see. What do you think? What do you think they're going to do? Do you think that this hardware boosted dock idea is good or bad or awesome or dumb, or you don't care about the Nintendo Switch? Tell me what you think. Also, before I forget, if you are watching this before February 1st, 2021, I'm giving away a bunch of gift cards on my Discord. Link in the bio. Come hang out. I'm giving away 4 $25 gift cards to the platform of your choice. Very good odds of winning because there's not a whole lot of us in there. Come hang out. I'm on there every day. If you want to just come talk to me, do it. Sayonara. What up? Stop. Oh.